how'd you get into baseball? And at what point did you start taking it seriously?
I don't remember how I got into baseball. I know one of my first childhood memories was throwing a baseball through a front window and getting in trouble for it. Continually playing wiffle ball in my front yard and tearing all my mom's plants up, and definitely being in trouble, you know. And then moving down to the park, which was just down the hill, and all my buddies would come. We'd put the white tape strike zone on the wall, and we'd play wiffle ball until it was dark. And you know, so baseball's always been in my life, and you know, playing t-ball in Little League all the way through, you know, your 12-year-old year in All-Stars, and you know, so I can't remember a time in my life where I wasn't playing baseball.
Little outfield, little first base when you were a major leaguer. I'm going to assume, though, at some point you were probably a shortstop, a pitcher, and a cleanup hitter, right?
Shortstop, catcher.
Oh,
Don't leave catcher out. Freshman year,
also tough.
High school.
All right.
Was the only kid that could really handle a developed pitcher. We'll use that word, right? That threw like 85.
Right.
So I caught. My dad was the coach.
Wow.
And all of us on that freshman team, the majority went to varsity our sophomore year. And my dad tried to stay in the dugout, and that's when we kind of butted heads. And I told him, hey, it's time for you to leave the dugout.
Well, you ultimately go on to play at Fullerton, which I'm doing the Google Maps on you here. It was like, what, 20 minutes from where you grew up?
Yeah.
So in retrospect, was that the smart decision to not go away to college? You wanted to stay close.
Well, regardless if it was a smart decision, it was probably the only decision.
Oh, really?
I was at a small school in East Los Angeles that really kind of just went under the radar in terms of being scouted. That being said, I got a chance to latch on with a travel ball team, which were rare at the time, and was seen by the coach as a highly competitive, you know, high risk type guy, that he had a connection with Fullerton, and that's how I was recruited. So I ended up there somewhat by luck, but then, you know, obviously made it home. And if I reflect on my freshman year, when you talk about it being 20 minutes away, I chose my first semester to stay at home, and that quickly changed, and I moved right out to an apartment to start the season.
Yeah, little freedom there.
Yeah.
Your professional baseball track was pretty quick. I mean, drafted in '96, you're with the Marlins a little bit in '97. Then the Padres, obviously, for a couple years after that. All this before you got to the Oakland A's. Would you say that, though, when you got to the A's, I mean, the stats suggested here, 472 games and hit .313 in 2004. Were your years with the A's the pinnacle of your career? Enjoyment-wise, I know you had your family here, but...
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. The timing of, from a professional standpoint and from a family standpoint, really was probably, it aligned perfectly. I came here with an opportunity to play every day in center field. I was traded for by a really, really solid everyday player in Ramon Hernandez in that deal, and felt like they really wanted me, truly wanted me, and I fit right into this environment. We won, which I had yet to accomplish in the big leagues, and finished a year at, even though we didn't make the playoffs, we had a winning season, and that became what was norm. And then obviously 05, 06, finally making the playoffs in 06, being a part of that group kind of solidified, you know, that feeling of I belong here, this is my home.
Yeah, and advancing around too. I know the A's were pretty excited about that. You had some back problems as a player, constant, right? I mean, how'd you overcome that?
Well, I wish I could say I did overcome them. It definitely impacted my career. Started in 03 with the Padres. I ran into a wall in Colorado full speed. Finished the game, went home, felt fine, and then next morning tried to get out of bed and really couldn't bear weight or stand up. And that was the beginning of kind of this progression that I dealt with. I played healthy all of 04 by the numbers when I came here. Full season, no problems. And then 05, it started really, and it became a manageable issue, but one that impacted my performance, no doubt. Surgery in 07 here as an A, rehabbed and came back too soon. that player mentality. I just want to be back with my team. I want to be on the field. I want to compete.
Yeah.
And then again in 09 with the Red Sox prior to the season. So took away from my ability to play every day, play the position I loved in center field, and but yet I grinded through a 17-year career.
Yeah.
And still very proud of that and the accomplishments.
Favorite Oakland teammate? I have an idea in mind, but I want to hear who you say.
There's a few of them.
It's hard, right, to narrow down to one. That's a tough question.
It really is, but Eric Chavez and Jason Kendall.
Okay, I mean, that was it.
It's kind of on par. Those two guys,
Yeah.
Special place in my heart.
Yeah.
Bobby Kilty.
Oh yeah.
Ronald
McDonald out here. Yeah.
So
we'll have to dig up that clip so people can see what we're talking about.
Oh, you have to dig it up.
You've never seen Ronald McDonald and Bobby Kilty the same place at the same time. Where's Bobby right now? Is this something that you think you want to see?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think he's up in the clubhouse actually right now. I'm sure he'd love to see him. I know Ronald McDonald is Bobby Kilty's idol, so I'm sure he'd love to see him. So
we had a classic Oakland athletic group that year in 06. We really did.
Yeah. No, I mean, you had characters, Swish, obviously, and Milton Bradley was supposed to be this piece that didn't fit, but really did. I mean, it was a good clubhouse. And honestly, it still feels like over the years, that team you were on, like, continued to the next generation. It's always been a good clubhouse.
Yeah, it really has. The culture's kind of continued forward. We talk about that a lot here with this group. You've got to be able to enjoy what you do. You've got to have some fun at the end of the day. But when you go out to work, it's that grind, it's that grit, that we talk about.
I've got one last playing era question for you, right? So 1,914 MLB games. But if some of your current players start to look you up a little bit, like they want to see some old clips or they want to see some kotsay stats, forget all that. What do you want them to think of you as a player? What do you want them to know you as of your playing career if they did look you up?
For me, I always played for the respect of my peers. And in that, I think if you look at the history of my career, I left everything I had on the field. I didn't accept, or want the complacency of it. I always was striving to be better.
Hey, Pache's really good on Twitter, by the way.
Yeah, I've
I don't know
seen
if you're following him
that.
yet,
Well,
but
I definitely have seen that. There's been some stories about it.
Moving on to a little bit of the personal life stuff. So you became a father of 3 all during your years here in Oakland, right?
That's
so
correct.
You've already said Oakland was a special place because of that, but how did you manage fatherhood mid-career? Like I just kind of went through that a little bit too. It's a lot, huh?
It is a lot. It's difficult. You have to have a very strong wife. And, I could get emotional about that because she carried the family through those years. And you do everything you can to physically be there. But at the same point, there's a tough balance to your professional life and being here and your family here. And then going home and really being present as a dad.
That changed you? It seems like maybe were you a different person before being a dad? Now you're different? Maybe?
I think there's change that happens.
Yeah.
I think we mature in our responsibilities for sure. But I don't think it changed in terms of my relationship with my wife or how I go about caring and being there and trying to be, as we talk about, being a role model for them.
You're a Warriors fan, huh? I've seen you at games. I see you wearing the undershirt. So how'd that happen?
I think I'm,
Wait,
childhood
not
Laker fan.
Not a Laker guy
Childhood
or a Clippers
Laker
guy?
fan.
Okay, right.
But definitely transitioned to a Warrior fan.
All right.
And a lot of that has to do with being here in Oakland.
Right.
I love to support the local teams. I got a relationship with Steve Kerr.
Okay.
And spent some time with him. He's one of the best, not only as a head basketball coach, but just as a person.
Yeah. You know, my next question here was, prove to me that you're a Warriors fan, but you just flexed and said, yeah, I hang out with Steve Kerr, so I'm gonna cross that question off. But seriously, you guys are doing the same thing, different sport, but leading a team. What do you guys talk about? Can you learn something from him? Can he learn something from you? Is it, you guys talk business, or do you keep it casual?
Yeah, no, I reached out to him and wanted to have an opportunity to spend a day with him in his environment. Which we made happen, fortunately, during the lockout.
Yeah, we had nothing else going on.
We came up here, my son and I, we attended a Warriors game together.
Okay.
And it just so happened to be one of the games where they were leading by 6 or 8. I was going to get escorted down into the press conference post-game. There was still about 2 minutes left. My son Trey says, "Hey, Dad, let's just hang on here." I think they were playing Denver.
Yeah.
And sure enough, buzzer beater, they lose. And I'm sitting in Steve's press conference with my son just shaking my head. He walks in and we both kind of make eye contact, right? It's like, oh, man. So, but.
You've both been there before, at least.
Yeah, well, I had never been in a press conference as a manager.
I see what you're
you know,
saying. But as a player, you've done that
it.
before.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
So.
Hey, you're on Twitter, right?
I have a Twitter
account.
account.
Okay.
Yes.
You have an Instagram account too.
I have that as well.
So, and that's my question. You're on there, but you're
Right.
not really active on there. So, what are you doing on there?
Well, a lot of it is information nowadays.
Okay.
You know, the
So
Twitter.
You're perusing.
You peruse
Okay.
a little bit.
All
you
right.
look, especially during the off season, a lot of the baseball information gets, tweeted out in advance, and so just to try to stay connected. My family, from the Instagram standpoint, they utilize it,
Got it.
to share some things. And yes, I'm public and verified, but what does that mean? And if I knew how to use it maybe a little better, Brodie, like if I could maybe create some type of, curiosity to it, but I have no idea.
When I say I could help you, I could show you, but I don't know that would be helping you. Isn't that crazy?
I might have to go to Dallas for that, right?
DB knows what he's doing on there. He's a little more edgy on there.
He is.
Isn't it crazy though that some of your players could find out that they got traded via Twitter, or their career status? They find out their own news sometimes, and I know teams really try not to make it happen that way.
Yeah.
But it is that speed. That's pretty crazy.
It is that speed. It's the world we live in right now. We do our best to get ahead of it, to not let a player find out any type of information that we can't relay to him first.
Hey, Pache's really good on Twitter, by the way.
Ay, Dios mío, ¿cuánto peluche? ¿Cuánto peluche? Vamos a esto, Michael Bond, el saco ese. Tráelo.
Yeah, I've seen that.
following him
No,
yet,
well,
but
I
you gotta-
definitely have seen that. There's
Yeah.
been some stories
Yeah.
about it. He's connected to the fans,
He's bridging the gap
which
a
is
little.
great. It's so healthy to see that, to see a player, want to connect. Obviously, there's the other side of the social media, though, that we pray and hope that doesn't take place, and that's
100%.
the nastiness of
Yep.
it, and we try to use it for the positives, right?
Can I hit you with a quick lightning round here?
Oh boy,
I'm ordering drinks. What can I get you?
old fashioned.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm a beer guy. You like beer?
I like beer.
I like wine too. You like wine?
I like wine.
All right, but an old fashioned.
Yeah.
Best off-season place to recharge?
Probably my house.
All right.
But,
So not Maui. Okay.
yeah.
All right. You didn't get drafted in Major League Baseball. What's your current job?
Oh, I work for the U.S. Marshals.
Really?
Hands down. I
Really?
was set.
Oh.
Up until my sophomore season, I literally didn't think I'd play at the Major League level, and I was committed to going into a local PD and
Really?
aspiring to be in either the Marshals or even the FBI.
Favorite car you ever had or have right now?
Well, I have a F-250 trimmer, which
Okay.
I love. I love my truck. My very first purchase upon completion of 3 years in the major leagues was a Mercedes that was a CLK 430. It had the old London kind of fog round headlights, so that car still stands out in my memory.
You treated yourself to that one.
I
right?
did, for
Yeah.
sure.
You got to have something like that.
It was a toy,
You a texter?
a little bit.
Favorite emoji that you use?
Probably the cry, the smile with the cry. That one seems to hit. I hit that one quite a bit.
Song or band or genre of music that gets you going?
I do listen to country.
Okay.
It's kind of my go-to probably. But I also like a certain kind of Euro, just not dance, but you
You're
know.
an EDM guy?
I like EDM. Yeah.
Oh man, we could do a whole separate show on this. Yeah, that's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
I got to say it here now, but yeah. Oh wow, since you went there, awesome. We'll share a playlist later.
All right.
Last thing here, I have a beard because I'm lazy and I hate shaving. Why
Yeah.
do you have a beard?
Because my wife really likes it.
Okay.
And even though it's
Mine
gray
doesn't.
and white,
It's a
she
little
really likes
scratchy
it.
sometimes.
Yeah.
My son
You
says
got
I
to
have
grow it
scratchy
out a
face.
little bit longer.
Softer.
Yeah, it gets softer the
Yeah,
longer
and you're
it
right.
gets.
The gray is one of the first I'm noticing along here.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, you're getting older. You're getting older.
It's not about quitting. It's about letting everyone know that that group needs to come together and get tighter, and the next man needs to step up.
Taking over the A's, October 2021. Bo Mel gets permission to interview with other teams. Obviously, he then takes the Padres job. But when you kind of find out and realize for the first moment, whenever it was, that the A's job was going to be open, does it instantly cross your mind that this is what you want to shoot for? Did it click like that, or do you have to even think about it, or?
I think all of us were caught a little bit off guard,
Yeah.
especially as a staff.
Agreed.
I can tell you exactly what I was doing. I was at my daughter's CIF tennis match when the phone rang. It was Bob, and he was letting me know, like, hey, I'm taking the San Diego job, and I was just, for a second, I said, what? You know?
Yeah. He was under contract for one more year, right?
He was, and we all were a part of that staff that re-signed for one more year with him. But as you said, you shift gears and you think, okay, am I prepared? Am I ready to take on
Right.
this venture? And
Right.
and I felt confident about it. You know, I did, you know, switch gears to say I want to lead this group.
It's got to be a pretty big moment. You realize, whoa, this is open. I'm a top candidate.
Right.
I have a chance at this. So you've known Billy and David for decades, I guess, at
Yeah.
that point? Is it like a formal interview?
Yeah.
Do they say, well, Mark, it says here you've played for our team before. Like, how'd that go?
Well, every interview process is different.
Yeah.
I've gone through the ringer 5 times,
Yeah.
and you know, each one has been different.
Yeah.
This was a conversational interview.
Yeah.
It wasn't non-formal by any measure. You know, and I think, you know, at the end of the day, having those relationships helps.
Yeah.
Understanding how this organization operates and has operated under Billy and David's leadership for the last 20 plus years definitely you know, leads to a head start. But at the end of the day, there were some really solid quality candidates, and I was fortunate to be the one.
So you're the 6th manager for the A's in the last 36 years, and I'm sure you aspire to that longevity. At the same time, it's almost like a little bit intimidating. You know, you're hopefully getting into a long-term commitment here.
Right.
Heck, Bob just did it for more than a decade.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's the goal and the plan. You know, and the goal plan is to lead this team further than that 06 team, which would be the last team that made a championship series here in Oakland. And at the end of the day, you know, when all's said and done, to reflect back on a World Series championship.
I watch all of your media availabilities. Bob was great at this too, but some coaches and managers across pro sports, very procedural. I don't care. I don't want to be here. Get out of my hair. Let me answer all your questions. But you seem, and the word I'm going to use is, you seem invested in that conversation. Why is that important to you?
Relationships are important,
Yeah.
and I value relationships. I try to make myself available to everyone that needs me every day. I have an open door policy. I know people say that, well, what does that mean? Well, my doors are literally open, and I strive to not make people feel uncomfortable when they walk in that door.
Yeah.
You know, even if it is in the middle of, you know, me doing something that I
Right.
feel is important.
Right.
It's not fair to that person, and that's why I think it's just fair to be invested in people.
Yeah.
It's what I love, and I think it's part of my strength.
You had multiple coaching roles with the A's before this ultimate manager job. Was coaching third base more fun or more pressure?
More fun.
Because you're on the field.
You're on the field, you're playing the game. It's
Yeah.
as close as I got to playing the game. Even though as a manager, you're getting to make decisions
Right.
in game that
Right.
are impacting
The juices get
results.
flowing
But
out there.
When you're out there, you're on
Yeah.
the field.
Yeah,
You're making game time, in the moment decisions
Yeah.
that are fun.
I don't know if you follow the whole stadium journey, Howard Terminal, what this franchise is ultimately after right now. But I mean, you're around long enough, you could be manager of this team if and when that stadium opens. Do you ever allow your mind to think about that? I know it's far off, I know it's a process, but would that mean something to you?
Yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, I think our focus as a manager has to be the daily activity and how we continue to get better as a team. I like to tell these guys to focus on what's controllable, and this isn't controllable for us. So, that's why we all each have our individual kind of roles and lanes, and yeah.
You had a difficult task to overcome in spring training, big trades, ever-changing roster all of a sudden. But I think what instantly was noticed out of the gate with your team this year is that a tone was set, distractions were minimized. In reverse, now that you've already launched the boat a little bit, how did you do that? What was the message that got these guys straight and pointed in the right direction?
Well, I think, anytime you lose someone, there's opportunity for someone else. And I think that was somewhat of a focus as well. And that, the group in there, started to understand that, hey, this might be my opportunity, as opposed to dwelling on what we lost. It's what do we have, and that next man up mentality. I started to really drive into these guys that, I use the reference, and it's not fair because guys, lose their lives that fight for our country, the Navy SEALs. But when they ring that bell, and the guys that can't make it through boot camp, it's not about quitting. It's about letting everyone know that that group needs to come together and get tighter, and the next man needs to step up. And so, we went through a difficult transition. We lost a lot of core players that were a part of this group for a long time, and yet I think that we as a group, as you talk about, started a culture here that believes in each other, and we came together.
Two more things for you regarding the culture and going back to your open door policy. I hope you don't mind. The other day I was walking by and it was open, I peeked. There's a lot of writing on your wall in the office, and I won't say what I saw, or
Right.
That's personal, it's private. What's that all about though? I mean, you're literally showing a game plan up there.
Well, that game plan is my culture, and I learned that from Steve Kerr. I had the pleasure, like we talked about earlier, of spending a day with Steve and going in his office, and it's literally it's a chalkboard, but it's a whiteboard,
Right.
and there's simple reminders, there's subtle things and messages with our core values, or what's important in my mind to a healthy environment, one that we can strive with, and so it's there for myself, but it's also there for the guys that have to come in that office and sit down and spend a minute with me.
Last thing you said at spring training, you've been wanting to be a MLB manager since your playing days, maybe even earlier than that. You happy now? Satisfied? Yeah.
I am. I'm having fun.
Yeah.
So
it's all that matters.
And I love my team.
Yeah. Mark, appreciate this. Best of luck this year and for many more years, hopefully.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Awesome.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.